Yo, Sino here again, and I have two books to show today. First one is Bookshops and Bonedust by Travis Baldry, and the second is The Serpant Sea by Martha Wells. And this isn't a review of the stories or anything, it's how the books are made, or a rough guide, because I'm not taking them apart, so I don't 100% know. But let's start with this, Bookshops and Bonedust. Now this is pretty representative of most modern hardbacks that you will just buy from a shop, and it is a perfect binding, meaning this is effectively just a normal paperback that has boards on. And what does that mean? Like, what kind of construction is that? Well, imagine a deck of cards representing each card as a page, and you pretty much just glue up the long end and then call it a day on a paperback. Now, on this, they've added boards and that kind of thing, and covering material of the boards and stuff. So that does make the book, protected from knocks and stuff. If you drop it, it's gonna protect the pages. However, because perfect bindings aren't that supported, the pages will sag over time. And what I mean by that is, especially the center pages are less supported, because the pages are supported from the outside in, so the boards, imagine the boards are holding it like a vice, and well, there's no boards there, so underneath here they will start to sag, and that will kind of look like this. I'll try and demonstrate with this pack of cards. So imagine this is the fore edge. The pages will start to sag like that, and then they'll pop out. You'll see them pop out at the bottom of the boards, and that can rub on the shelf. So if you ever see a book with a dirty stain here, it's sagged and it's rubbing on the shelf. Now, sewn books also sag, but they take a bit longer, and the wider a book is, the quicker it'll sag. But these perfect binding hardbacks sag very quickly. I've seen, it was like this week or last week, I was in a shop and I saw the Great June Trilogy and the second Great June Trilogy, the like fake leather, the black cover fake leather ones, they're both perfect, and on the shelf unsold they were sagging, like, which is just mental. Like, that's so unacceptable in my opinion. So you fix one issue by protecting the pages, but you kind of add another issue in. So is it better? I'm not 100% sure. I would say no, it's not better. So the construction's not good, and I've even looked I've looked down the spine, and I don't even think it's lined. I don't know if that's a thing people do, lining perfect bindings with something like Muller craft paper. Probably not, because it would fold. I don't know, but yeah, this is the construction not that good, because there's no redundancy. If the glue fails, that's it, it's game over. There's nothing else holding it on. So let's talk about the quality of material. So there is a dust cover, which is quite nice, so we'll take that off. And the grain of this is correct, which is good. Now, grain is the direction of most of the fibers, like wood. So on a book, you want every man-made material to be top to tail, going vertically like that. It just helps with everything. It's like the fundamental nature of the book. It just, if it's wrong, it just doesn't work as a book as well as it should, which I'll show you in a second. So the dust cover's got correct grain, which is nice. It'll last a bit longer, because you want to fold all the folds, you want to be with the grain instead of folding it against. I should put that over there. The boards are wrong grain, which not ideal. The cover material is, as far as I can tell, it's a type of paper. I don't think it's a cloth, like a book cloth, and I can't tell the grain on that, so I don't don't know, I can't say that one way or the other. The end papers are a printed illustration, which are quite nice. I quite like that over just simple plain ones, or even just ones with like a symbol or something on. They're quite nice, and they are actually correct grain, which is good. But then the pages themselves are wrong grain. Now, all the other materials, a normal person probably wouldn't notice if the grain was correct or not, but for the pages, it means the pages don't want to fold. They want to stick up like that, because all of the fibers are going up like that. So it's a nightmare to open a book like this and just have it sit on a shelf. Now, the perfect binding construction also makes it that it doesn't want to open as well. So it's like a double whammy of, like, they just do this, you see? Like, they don't want to fold at all. So that's like a double negative, that the grain of the paper is bad, wrong, and you add that to the construction, perfect binding, and it's double wrong. The paper is not bad. It's a cream colour, which I prefer cream over white paper. I don't know if you can tell that on the camera or not. And there's a little bit of bleed, but not. I don't really care about that. I've never really been distracted by it. You can see where the chapter markers, you can see, but it's not. I don't know. I've never really minded that. So overall, this is just poor. It will probably start sagging after a read or two. Like some people, I know some people have them put them upside down to counter the sag, and then turn it, and then turn it, and turn it. Or I guess you could have it sideways. I don't know if you've got the space. But yeah, this is representative of most modern hardbacks, which is poor. The cost of this was about £19, I think. So it's not trying to be super expensive and nice and deluxe, but it's just a shame, because I would love to have a sewn copy of this book, because I've read the previous one and I enjoyed it, so I would like to have, well, nice copies of both. So let's move on then. So mostly bad. Now this is a paperback, as you can see, but this is sewn. Now, what you are looking for to tell a sewn book from a perfect bound is loops when you look at the foredge or the bottom, kind of like hairpins. Like you're looking for like a loop where each section is. And I'll open to a section and show you. You might be able to see the sewing in it. Kinda. It's sewn all along. Somewhere. I doubt there's tapes on this or anything like that, but this is just, I think, a much better way of making a cheap book, because this is sewn and glued. Some people say that perfect bindings glued, which I don't really like, because there's glue in this or any other most hardbacks that you would make. So it implies that there isn't glue in a sewn hardback, but the reason this is good is because even though after a few reads this will become misshapen, the sewing will mean you're not going to lose any pages. So if the glue fails or whatever, the sewing is going to hold it there to the point where you can repair it. And whereas on a perfect, you kind of just have to re-perfect the whole thing, which is a shame. So let's talk materials. The paper in this is white, which is one of the very few negatives. And the bleed, again, I'll just mention it. It's, I don't know, kind of comparable. Again, don't really care. As far as I can tell, the grain on the paper is correct, which is unbelievable. Now that might just be me hoping, wishing it is, and like my bias is like, ooh, I want it to be great in every way, I would have to take this apart and fully test the paper or cut bits off it, which I don't want to do. But as far as I can tell, it is. Which those two things, sewn, correct grain. Oh, now we're talking. This is like almost perfect, because you could take this apart and do a fine binding out of it, like, you know, leather cover, that type of thing. Really nice end papers, marble maybe, or you get someone to do an illustration for you if you can. And one of the other negatives. So negative, white paper. Yeah, that's a preference thing though. But yeah, the other negative is there are 12 sections. Now, you want an odd number of sections, because when you come to round and join it, it's much better to have one in the very center. Otherwise, you can get like a trench, like the sections kind of go like that, and you get like a trench in the middle when you fan it out. But that only really matters if there's like much less, like 4 sections or 6. Like 12's still a pretty decent number, like where you're not going to get that big of a trench, and you can cover it with, who you're doing a fine binding, you would obviously do like a sewn headband which would cover it up anyway. And if you're doing leather, you wouldn't get pits and bumps on the spine, so there are ways to cover that up. I would prefer an odd number of sections. And you might think, well, how would you do that if there's enough pages for 12? Surely you can't. But what is done is you would do when you get to the penultimate section, you make that one a bit smaller, so the first and last sections are correct size, and then you have a little section in it. It kind of hides it. The Harley Quinn comic I'm working on, the Harleen comic, currently by Serpant Seas. That is sewn, correct grain, and an odd number of sections, and the penultimate section is smaller, so that means someone knew what they were doing on that book. But yeah, this is like, when I got handed this, I was so like impressed. It was the first paperback I've seen sewn. I've seen a few more since. There was one random book in a second-hand bookshop I saw, and then I've seen a few children's books. When I was with my nephews, they had some like children's books that were sewn paperbacks, and I was just like, whoa, that's weird. I would never expect to see that. But I guess children's books have to be stronger, so makes sense. But I would love to know why they've made this, because if I get this is the first book in the Raksura series, and this is just a traditional perfect bound, just like the book I showed you before. So there's clearly 2 versions of these. This has 2 ISBNs in, I think, for the perfect bound and the sewn bound. So I would love to know if this publisher just makes 2 copies, like 2 versions, like perfect bounds for a large number, and then they make a few of these, or I don't know if the author themselves have asked for both. I don't really know how that works, but either way, I would much prefer to have, if all books, like cheap books, were like this. We're talking, just books you buy like that, Bookshops and Bonedust, for example. I would much prefer them to be like this, because they are repairable. There's just more thought being put into this for it to work properly. Now, this book doesn't open like that, but when you would round and join it, which again, that might imply that the grain is wrong also, and I was just hoping it was right, but we'll see when I pull this apart. But this is just, I think it's just better. This was about £9, so £10 less. You might think, but I've just said it's better, how can it be cheaper? There are more materials in this, so it's not that much of a stretch to say that why this would be more expensive. but I would much prefer this for publishers to do more like this. But yeah, that's about it. Anything else? No, I think that's it. Good stuff. Bye.